Hello and welcome to Func Prog Sweden, the sixth this year. On today's agenda, I will do a short intro and then I will be handing over to Jane Walerud, which I guess most people that are watching might already know something about. And she will be telling us choosing a startup to start or join from a first investor's perspective. And then I will hand over to Johan Bevemyr, who will present startups from an engineer's perspective. And in the end, I'll have a short summary and go through the schedule for the coming year. First up, I would like to thank our video sponsor, Adabeat. Adabeat is a small IT consulting company in Stockholm, where most of the developers have a background in functional programming. If you want to know more about Adabeat, please check them out on adabeat.com or in social media. Also, if you want to support the community, please join the meetup or follow the YouTube channel. And also check out the funny store we put up where you can order your own t-shirt with the Func Prog Sweden logo on. All money will go back to making more Func Progs. Yes. If you have questions during the presentation, please ask them in the YouTube chat. If you can't ask them in the YouTube chat, don't want to, please spam in the meetup application or just mail me. I think you find all the information in meetup. With that said, I will start and I will hand over to Jane Walerud. Warm welcome, Jane.
Thank you.
We are super thrilled that you're here and to tell us everything so we all can be entrepreneurs.
Yeah, right. Have to have luck. There we go.
Yeah.
So I met people in Erlang, I guess, 1997, toward the end of 1997, something like that. And I was going to sell Erlang to any company who wanted to buy it, and from Erlang Systems, which was a part of Ericsson. And people have been trying that for 5 years without actually any salespeople, and it hadn't gone very well. So that 2 months after I started, Ericsson forbid the use of Erlang in any new products, which made it rather difficult to sell to anybody else. Ericsson was nice enough not to fire me immediately, which I should have been. And one of the guys had a business idea and sent it around to the whole group and said, "What do you think?" And I asked, "Well, who's going to buy the first one and why and how much? What's it worth?" And our common manager said, "Ooh, you're the only one asking questions like that. You need to go help Jocke." And so I did. Right, and that is really the beginning of the story. So this is what startups like. If you put me this is what actually it is like in the very early stages of startup. It really is like that. You think, oh, we're going pretty well, and then, ooh, and then you're, okay, maybe we're all right again. The thing is that usually roller coasters are safe. Startups are not safe. It's pretty exciting. I love it. I'm an addict. I'm like one of these people who travels around the world to get the startup feeling, yet another roller coaster. So anyway, these people who started way back when in 1997, I believe. That's us. Jocke is in the front, and there's Magnus and me and Patrick. We were going to start something with Ericsson, and we were part of Ericsson's startup lab or whatever the hell it was called then, and Jocke was going to get 25,000 crowns if we made some milestone. And we made the milestone, and Ericsson didn't pay. That made me very, very angry. And we started another company. We decided to actually do it. We'll just jump, okay? So we started a company called Bluetail. This was started off the very first days of 1999. And it, 1991, some of you have heard of the dot-com boom. We sold it in the summer of 2000. It was about like this. This is what it looked like. And back then, it was really spectacular to sell a company for around 1.5 billion. Nowadays, it's nothing at all, but it still is quite a bit of money. And this is what it looked like. Most of the time, the companies that were sold at the turn of the centuries didn't actually go very well. But Bluetail did for quite some time because the people working at Bluetail were just so excellent at their jobs. So that it actually made money not only for the investors, but also for the company that bought it and also for the customers. It was a really good deal. We sold the company, right, to a company called Nortel. Nortel, it was Canada's largest company at the time. And the CEO and the CFO ended up in jail for bookkeeping fraud. So as you can imagine, the shares that we got in Nortel weren't worth quite as much as we thought they were worth when we got them. Anyway, so after a year, everybody who wasn't absolutely amazing technically, and even some that were, but certainly not me, we were all let go. And I had money. I had a kid, and we bought a dog. And I went into the 5th grade class and taught and did pretty wild experiments with gunpowder and various other fun things, and was a mom for a year, and then started to invest. Okay. To begin with, I was, I'll just take any company that I think is really cool. There weren't very many other investors because this is now during the Ice Age, around 2002 I started. Nobody else was investing, so I could invest. What do I invest in? Well, somebody else's idea. I have lots of ideas, and they're all terrible. It's too bad, but there you are. Now at least I know that, so I don't actually... I can make somebody else's idea better by asking about them, but I can't actually come up with the idea myself, it turns out. Anyway, so that's what you need to do, is find out a good idea. And you know what? I bet you can. You're probably much better at it than I am. So why Erlang? So what's good about Erlang? Once upon a time, it's probably different now, but back then it was 5 nines of uptime. It went soft real time. You could have an awful lot of threads on one machine. And so it was really fast at doing lots of similar small operations. Very reliable. Okay? At that point, there were a few airline companies. Many more now. Right, so what do? One of the best ways to think of ideas, I've heard, is that you think about what you're good at and what the tool you want to work in is good at, and what problem do you think you see in the world. And so you limit it to things that are good for doing lots of small operations which are very similar. And that might be, for instance, fintech like Klarna. There's a lot of small operations with fintech, and it has to be extremely reliable. Nobody wants their payment to go up into the great bit bucket. Insurtech, messaging, anything with rentals and the circular economy, anything that goes around quite a bit where you have a fair amount of volume. And nowadays there's a lot of marketplaces you can do where your woman I know is going to be doing packaging. Okay. So there's too much packaging going around. Maybe we should do it better. So how about matching people who want new packaging with a whole bunch of packaging suppliers and make the most efficient and beautiful and circular packaging as possible. That will be quite a lot of programming. Right, the other thing that I do is I look at the hype cycles. So that if you're looking at what needs to be done, if you look at on the way up, you can invest, right? But then it doesn't generally work. If you get things that are sort of at their peak or a little bit after their peak. So for instance, here it says, bring your own identity. It says carbon-based transistors. It says explainable AI. Explainable AI, I think, is still pretty hot. Investing in something that's really actually on its way down, the companies are more mature than when they're on the way up. They're also cheaper. and they're more likely to actually find a problem that the customer wants solved, so that you can actually get down over the next year when you're actually building something, then you're on your way down, and then you have something that actually works and go up again. That's the way we've done it a fair number of times. Find an emerging technology that we think is cool, and sort of not at the beginning of the hype cycle, a bit later. Right, so I work with my husband and daughter now. Current portfolio, I guess there's a few more now. E-commerce from Klarna, retail experience. It's called volumental. What you do is you scan your feet nowadays with an app or on a scanner, do a 3D model of it and tell you which shoes will actually fit you. They're up to around 60 people now. Cash flow positive, doing well. Satellite communication with beautiful new antenna that is in a design prize, a terminal that won prizes called Red Dot for the best design. Started there in 2016. I guess they're up to around 40, 45 people now too. Green nanomaterial, we started to go more and more toward green tech, deep tech, green tech. Edge AI, edge of machine learning actually. Graphotex, the one where I'm working quite hard at the moment. It's we can make copper that's 40% more conductive and 55% stronger. So we think that we can bring down the use of copper in the world, which will mean it possible to electrify the world. And we're doing 2 in stealth mode, which is fun. Okay, so somewhere this is what we're doing. Other ideas to watch, things around climate change, because there's an awful lot of money going in. And you with your skills can actually do quite a bit of good in a lot of these projects that are not only do-gooder projects, they can also be quite profitable. You can make a huge difference. So think about that. You can making more with less, or mitigate the effects, or sequester carbon, or help people know how they should behave differently, or whatever. Automation the same way. Prediction, AI there's still a lot of things that need to be predicted in this world, and AI is extremely good at prediction. So you can make money off that. Predict what houses will sell for, predict which packaging you should do like that woman does. Anything, as I said. Right? You need to use more than just available data. Okay? If anything, if it's just data that is available publicly, then when your startup starts to work, then somebody else will be able to use the same data and copy it, and you won't have anything left. So make sure you have your own database. I think the genomics is coming fast. We can tell that from mRNA, but there's an awful lot of things to be done with genomics, just a lot. Synthetic biology, and there as well. I mean, do not believe that if you're doing functional programming, you are useful in all these databases and all these back office things, and all of the kernels that have to go quickly. Education. You might have noticed that a lot of schools were closed a lot of this last year. We have to catch up, and we have to make sure that education actually works and gets people to learn stuff. It doesn't seem to at the moment. There's pretty good research showing that people in general do not learn anything, do not get better at their jobs over 4 years of a university education, which is pretty expensive for not learning anything at all. I think if you're going to be an engineer, then probably you do learn something, but the rest of us did not. Too bad. Right, so if you don't have your own ideas like I don't, then you can talk to your engineering friends. When I did that with the Bluetail gang, they had 42 ideas that they'd saved up, which was amazing. Otherwise, take a look. There are other ideas. Okay. KTH Innovation, there's a lot of extremely good people and extremely good ideas there. You can go and get that. You guys can probably go and take a look at Hannes School and Business Lab, the Stockholm School of Economic Business Lab, and say, hey, I'm a top-notch developer who wants me as a co-founder. This works really very well. I work at something called Creative Destruction Lab, which is all about building something massive, science-based. It's international. It's free for the startup. And what happens is you get, well, me and the guy who's chairman of Twitter and the guy who came up with Alexa and the guy, yes, again, there were some girls there too, the guy that was head of the UK military for many years, just really quite qualified people who coach and give contacts and get your startup going. Once again, it's free, and you're usually at a business school. So this one's at Oxford Said Business School. You get around 3 business school students to help you to do whatever you need to do. That helps if you have an idea. Uppsala Innovation Center as well, if you're in Sweden. There's also something called Antler. Okay, now Antler does matchmaking between people who have technical ideas and people who could possibly be business people. They take around 15% of the company, and they do 8 weeks of coaching, and they do invest in the companies after the 8 weeks they believe more in. But it's basically a marketplace for co-founders. It's possible. If you have an idea, you can go to Antler and say, I've been working on this thing for a while, and then you get, and their co-founders, their technical co-founders, generally they're juniors from McKinsey or Bain or something like that. They're early 30s. They're just about perfect. A friend of mine had been working on a trade finance, not really a blockchain, but sort of similar, and got a co-founder who's wonderful, and I think they've quadrupled their valuation since this time last year. All right, so what else about your idea? It has to actually solve something that hurts, okay? And it really has to hurt a lot because nobody actually wants to buy from a startup. Why not? Because the startup is likely to fold. Something's gonna go wrong, and if you're dependent on it, then you've lost everything. So there has to be desperate customers or customers who really need this thing, and they have to have it, okay? And it actually is, you have to help your customer. You need to go there and understand and help them do things and see where they get stuck and see what they really want and really understand it, okay? Do everything you can to understand. Don't be arrogant. I remember once upon a time going on customer visits with very smart developers who basically said, oh, you've been working on that for 8-9 months. Let me, and then here, go away, Harold, and then, no, it's done. That's not the way to become popular. Okay. So you want to be careful, be nice. People would rather pay money. People would rather hear that, yes, this is a terrible problem. Exactly why is it hard for you? Oh, yeah. So why is it hard for you when your system goes down? Yeah. And what would that cost? And who gets mad at you? And why? And what's the consequence of that? You need to go through quite a big process of asking things. That big process of asking things is called spin selling, S-P-I-N selling. There's books on it. There's YouTubes on it. Okay. Right. So you have an idea. It hurts, solves a problem that hurts. You think it's great. You've got a co-founder somehow. Next thing you work on is your strategic position. This is from a Harvard professor called Michael Porter. 5 factors. Okay. So your strategic position is, well, so if people could do this with you and they could also do it with something else that's coming next week, fine. Okay, then they'd rather do the other thing, so they don't want to actually buy from a startup. So substitutes are bad. How much of a threat are they? Okay. If you have suppliers that are selling you electricity and rooms to sit in, that's fine. There's lots of people who do that. If they're selling you a absolutely key machine or an absolutely key ingredient in what you're doing, then it's likely that they're going to increase their prices until you either go bankrupt or you're bought by them. So preferably lots of different alternative suppliers for whatever's key to you. If not, then you know where your weakness is, right? The next one is rivalry. How nasty are people to each other in this industry? The worst are actually the doctors. You think they're all very nice, right? But no, the medtech, people really try to steal from each other. People really do steal wreck each other's experiments. People really do try to steal IP. Be careful. Sometimes it's really easy. Once upon a time when I was doing solar cells, then everybody who wanted to buy solar cells would say, oh, fine, we really need all you can supply, but the people down the road also need it, so why don't you split it between the two of us so we both survive? That's nice, okay? Of course, then China came in and took over that market, so that's all gone down. But rivalry, you have to think about it, because you want to have a industry where you're comfortable, where the person you are fits into the industry. You don't want to feel like you're under attack all the time. You want to feel that people are just behaving about the way you'd like them to, or the way you behave normally. In the same way with buyers, if you've only got a few possible customers, talked to somebody once upon a time who had a way of doing roads better. Well, in Sweden, there's one customer. It's called Trafikverket. If you don't get that, then you have a dead company, because no similar customer in another country is going to buy when the Swedish one has not. So you need many buyers. When I was working with Lensway, then that was easy, because there are something like 7% at that point of Swedes used contact lenses. And if one person said they didn't like Lensway, well, that was one out of many. It didn't matter that much if that person decided not to buy. In the same way, you should try to be the new entrant yourself and not the one that's under threat of new entrants, that somebody else will come in with new patents and do whatever it is you're doing much better real soon now. Okay. So when you think about this, what you want to do is think about what's going to happen, how many people are there, how many people in that position, or how many organizations in that position are there. If you're under a few thousand in terms of buyers, then it's really kind of small, and you're going to be ending up with, they'll have quite a bit of bargaining power. Rivalry, you'll feel that when you go into start talking to people, whether they throw you out of their stand at the trade show or not, for instance. Right? So think about that. Think about where you have your weakness. Okay? So right now I'm doing this graphene company, where we use graphene and metal powder, and we make copper 40% more conductive. So we have machines, okay, and we have graphene, and we have copper powder, and we have a lot of patents. The machines I was afraid of, but it turns out they're standard machines and we can buy them used. Fine, okay, good. That's not so bad. Graphene, it's a problem. There are a lot of companies who actually say they produce graphene, but they don't. They produce stuff that we, in our electron microscopes, can figure out is not graphene. So there are only a few suppliers, and they do have power over us. So we are now bringing up our own line of making graphene out of used batteries. Used lithium-ion batteries contain some stuff that we can turn into graphene. So we'll do that ourselves to get rid of the supplier power. But so you find out where your weak point is, and you're going to have to work on it. This is a very good exercise to do with your startup as well. Okay. Next thing is a team. You're really going to work together for years? And it really is years? It's like 10, 20 years? We're talking about that? A startup I was working on and thought I was going to co-found, worked like hell in November to April, fell through because I and one of the other people, we were just not going to get along. It wasn't going to work, so I bowed out. And then one of the other ones bowed out, and now we found we're back in business, but the one whom I thought was trouble is now gone. But it says you have to be careful with this. If you don't like them really, really well, then it's going to be miserable for the next 20 years. You can get rid of co-founders. Yes, they tend to end up with a lot of shares, and the conflict between you will have caused trouble in the company, in the organization. really bad trouble that doesn't go away. Not for years. You have to work on it. Okay, so be careful. That one I care about. Okay, this is my team. A few years ago, and I started investing after exiting from Bluetail, and after around 10 years or so, figured out, put all of the companies I'd been in. So how much had I worked, and how much did the money make? And it turns out that there's a really strong correlation with my having worked and the company going well. And it's not that I'm so great. It means that I've actually chosen, oh, these people are going to be my co-founders. These people are people I'm going to work with. These are people I want to work with for a long time. And that means that the group actually works better. And of course, all startups are short on people, so that it helps. So that it generally, that's why we do what we do, which is to go into very few companies, and each one of us 3 takes at most 2 active companies. Okay. So our startups this way. Listed a few, sold a few are growing. Some have done badly, and we have a few, 5 in that we're currently active. Right, people often ask about how do you actually get money? And there's all of these stories in the newspapers. The VCs are just so good at marketing how amazing they are. And say that you can't possibly have a good startup if you don't take in lots and lots of money from us. Well, that's not true, okay? Paradox is a game company. They didn't take any VC money at all. They took some very early on from Spielton, and that's it. Okay, so they had the people who owned it. Stefan Vester, I think he owned 2/3 of the company himself when they sold it for billions, or IPO'd it for billions. Minecraft. I think there are 3 or 4 people who owned it and they sold it, right? So we bootstrapped Teclo. It didn't sell for very much, but it still made a difference in people's lives because we had nobody else owning any shares. Ellen, we listed with 120 angels in it. Lensway we sold with a similar number of angels in it. SatCube is only at angels now. Econo is only at angels now. We had some local VCs into RaceFox, Graphmatech, and Bluetail. No international ones. Volumental early on got one Silicon Valley guy who loves his vineyard. So they're sort of international, but maybe. And Tobii, Klarna, and Swedish Algae Factory definitely have international investors. It is not true that you get the most money from the biggest exits as a founder, as an employee. It is just not true. You need to think about that. It can be more profitable to start a smaller company where you own the whole thing. It is possible. It's not, but on the other hand, Klarna, of course, is wonderful, right? But possible. And then you can wonder why we're doing this. It's been a while. Bank sold a couple of companies. I've sold a few companies. Even Caroline has done some pretty good stuff. Why the hell are we doing it? Okay. And, well, we've built up some skills. And why not use them? Okay. And it's also exciting. It's just being on that roller coaster. We actually care and love and worry about, and it's like they're like kids, right? And we care about them a lot. And we like to contribute. Jobs, skills, and also more entrepreneurs, okay, who know how to start companies so they can do it again themselves. And they contribute in their turn. So you can see that Tobii turned into Brightly, which is invested in quite a few companies. Lensway turned into Footway, which turned into Atomico and Blacking Minds, and goodness knows how many companies that has been, right? Bluetail turned into an awful lot of companies, which have turned into an awful lot of companies themselves. You might say that Bluetail turned into Klarna, which turned into Norwen, right? And Norwen is doing well, I'm a mentor at their Impact Hub, and they got 2,200, I believe, or something like that, applications to be in their acceleration for impact startups. They're huge, and so that's the way the Swedish startup system. I believe that's the same for most places. That's the way that it all works. You actually pay it forward, start a new company. Other people say, "Oh, I can do this too. This is not so hard," and then they do. So that's what I do, okay? And it's over and over and over again. So right now I really am probably going to co-found a company. And that's fun, and I'm glad to do it. So if I was going to say anything more, it's basically I was going to tell you how to choose, and it's basically these things that I want you to do. Figure out some idea. Okay. Either limit it to Erlang, Elixir, or functional programming. Think about an emerging technology. Think about what's hot. Think about what's not hot, and has a big customer perspective, right, that they really hurts. And think about your strategic position. That's it. That's what I was going to say. Goodbye.
Thank you very much, Jane. Thank you very much. I'll keep
Thank
you
you.
up here for questions.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, I'm not going to let you go so easy.
But you went up.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask you, like, I was about to ask you what you're looking for, but you already told me that, what you're looking for. What's your take on, like, blockchain? Is it up, down? Is it still hot?
Oh, goodness. Right. So I'm green. I'm wearing. I'm a greenie.
Yep.
Okay. And at the moment, the cryptocurrencies are taking too much energy.
Yep.
Okay. I don't believe in proof of work. Okay.
Mm.
Because it's bad for the world.
Mm.
That said, I think that blockchain itself is an interesting technology, and that there are definitely need for decentralized. I think I can see several things where you can decentralize the databases, and that's probably not a bad thing. I've been looking for quite a few years now for a good blockchain startup that I wanted to deal with, and I haven't found one.
It's an idea.
There you go. It's none of my. Once again, my ideas generally lousy.
Okay, so we're not going with that idea.
No, you can. Other people can have wonderful blockchain ideas. I haven't had.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you ever made a big mistake and thought, "Oh my God, this is going to bring me down"?
Big mistakes constantly.
Okay.
Just constantly. Nowadays, I have enough cushion in every way that it's not likely to bring me down. Injuries bring me down.
Oh.
Yeah, but no, I never invest that much in any one company that it's going to make me a poor fattigpensionär, a poor retired person. No.
Okay. Are you still looking for companies in Sweden? You look everywhere in the world?
Well, since we actually honestly work operatively in our companies,
Sweden is easiest, or?
Europe,
maybe?
It needs to be within reasonable commuting distance for like at least a short week a month there on site. I mean, COVID, we've all learned to work remotely, but it's more fun. Darn it! It's much more fun if you can actually be there and do and work together and be on the whiteboard together and say, "Oh, yeah, good idea, good point." That's something all three of us value and all three of us think is important. So we tend to look in Sweden. We look as well in Finland and Norway and maybe the Baltic states, and that's basically as far.
Okay.
With the Creative Destruction Lab, then we do invest a little bit in those hot startups that are international. But then it's basically because we've mentored them. Caroline's there and I'm there. If we've mentored them a lot and think that, wow, these people are really doing great, then we'll give them some money.
Have you ever found a company that came to you with a good idea, but the people behind it was, this is not going to work because of the people?
Oh yeah. Constant.
Oh, okay.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So it's really a match of technology or solving a problem and the people behind it.
If you have a good group and a sort of idea, it actually is true that the good group can generally turn that bad idea into a fairly decent one.
Yep.
if you've got a bad group, they can turn a fantastic idea into absolutely nothing.
I understand.
Yeah, no, it actually is true.
Yep.
It's nothing one wants to believe, but it's true.
Yeah, I've seen it myself, but not in startups.
Mm.
Thank you very much. Again.
Thank you.
Yes.